Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I am starting another quilt. I'm going to be using up hopefully the rest of these 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles that were left over from when I made the Scrappy Stars quilt. And what I decided to do was to make flying geese. So I needed a pattern that could use rectangles as opposed to squares, because I didn't really want to cut these, because I could cut these into 2.5 inch squares, but then that would leave a 2 inch by 2.5 inch rectangle at the end. So I just wanted to use the whole piece. So flying geese was the answer for that. So I mentioned in my last video, I believe it was, that my friend has 2 great-grandbabies due this year, and she wanted 2 baby quilts, and she wanted them both different. So I got on EQ8, and this is what I came up with, and I'll pop up a picture so you can see it better. But it's flying geese, and flying geese make rectangles. You can put 2 together and you have a square, but I wanted like 8 inch blocks. So the solution was to add sashing to the sides of 4 flying geese that were sewn together. So this is going to be another scrappy quilt, and since it's a girl, I'm going to have some pink in the sashes that go on the sides of the flying geese. So I ran to the store today and looked at the Kona solids, and I found a light pink, and then this is kind of a turquoise color. This will be the border. And I spent an hour or so today cutting out 2.5 inch squares here. I've got 2 stacks of these. I'm hoping I've got enough. I calculated that I needed 288, so that's what I cut. So we'll see if we have enough. Now the easiest way, well, one of the easiest ways to make flying geese, you can use foundation paper, which I don't have, or you can just use the squares on the sides and draw a diagonal line on each piece and sew on that line. Well, I really don't want to draw lines on 288 squares, so I'm going to use the method where you have a guide on your sewing machine to follow. So I have glow line tape. This is a static type tape. It doesn't leave a residue behind. And I'm going to cut a piece of this and line it up with my needle, and that'll give me a guide to follow when sewing. And I'll probably have to use several pieces because it doesn't stay on forever, but it works really well. So I'm just going to go ahead and line this up. I have my 1/4 inch guide right there on my cover to the bobbin. There's a line there that guides for your 1/4 inch seam. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And then as I'm sewing, I just guide this right along that edge, and then I've got a straight line. So for the next day or 2 or 3, I'm going to be sewing flying geese units. So I'm just going to start with sewing one side of each one of these rectangles, and I've got 144 rectangles. I've got them all laid out here by color so that I can just kind of pick and choose what I want. It doesn't really matter, they all have to be done. So, but I can always, if I get tired of one color, I can always switch to another one. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll do all the trimming and the pressing, and then I'll sew all the flying geese together, and then I need to cut the sashing. So I'll have my here we go. Oh, now I'm stuck. So I'll have to cut up my pink, I'll need 2.5 by 8.5 inch pieces. So I'll cut that up, and I'll need 72 of those. And then the border, I think I made this I think this is a 4-inch border. So I'll cut the border after that. So anyway, today I will be sewing lots of flying geese. And then I'll just keep going. So nothing really tricky about this. It's just that there's a lot of pieces. Okay, so I have got half of the flying geese units done. So now I need to put the square on the other side. So I've got a whole stack of them down here, and as I pressed them, I just kind of lined them up and pressed them and just made a big stack. So all of these get the second square done to make the flying geese. So that'll go on the opposite side, stitch from corner to corner, trim, press, and then the flying geese will be done. You know, once I get all of these flying geese completed, then I have to sew them together in groups of 4. So that'll be the fun part, because then I can mix and match colors and play around with the pieces, and then get them all into sets of 4, and then sew them together, and then add the sashing. So I've got a ways to go, and but I should have this done within a week. So I have my stack of squares here, and I'm just going to chain piece all of these together. So now I've got all of these flying geese laying out, and what I did was just stack them up with like prints. So I can just grab from them as I want to and sew them together, and hopefully come out even in the end. So I'm working on 36 blocks, and they each have 4 flying geese per block. So I need to just mix and match colors together, and I need 4 in each block. So I'm gonna start with just sewing 2 like pieces together, or sew 2 pieces together at a time. So like I'll sew these 2 together, and then I'll sew another set together, and keep going until I run out of flying geese units. So here I have my stack of flying geese units done, and I think they turned out pretty well. There's some that I might need to trim a little bit, or watch how when I sew my sides on, you know, watch the points. But I did my best to change up some of the colors. Let me tip them so you can see them a little bit better. But I don't have any reds in here, and I don't have any pinks. And I don't have any reds because I didn't have any more of the red fabric. I used all of that up. The pinks I held back because they're going to have the pink sashing on the sides, so I didn't want any pink flying geese. So next thing is I got my pink fabric. I need to get it pressed and then cut. And so I'll need 72 2.5 by 8.5 inch rectangles. Now, one thing I did want to mention is that this is a good quilt to use your jelly rolls with, because all of the pieces are 2.5 inch width somewhere in the measurement. So flying geese are 2.5 by 4.5. These are 2.5 inch squares. These pieces are 2.5 by 8.5. So this is a good quilt to use a jelly roll on. So if you have a jelly roll laying around, use that, get some background fabric, and get something to use for your sashing. It could be part of your jelly roll. It doesn't all have to be one color like what I'm using here. So I'm going to stop for the night. It's getting late, and I have a couple other things I need to do before I go to bed, and I'll pick this up again maybe tomorrow or the next day, and I'll show you where I'm at that point. Okay, I have all of the blocks made, and I've got them pressed open and all ready to put together. I did do the first row, and that turned out really well. So I'm just following my diagram, and I am just alternating the way these blocks are in position. So some are down and some are to the right. And this is the first row, and then the second row will be, it'll be the same, only the blocks will be alternating to the row above them. So now you can do different things with these blocks. I've got them, they're either going to, like they're going to the right or they're going down. Well, you could also like have one row like this, and then have this row, have them go to the left and up. So you could do, you know, all different things, or you could have them all going the same way. I have the top all pieced, and now I'm doing the border. So I'm piecing the border strips together. So I cut them 4.5 inches wide by width of fabric, and I've cut 5 pieces, and I'll see if that's enough. I may have to cut another one. I haven't done the actual math to make sure. But I've doing a mitered piecing here, so I've got a line drawn, and I'm just going to sew right on that line. Okay, so let me get the tails off. I also pin these together since they're wide here. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.